So about a month or two ago, I ended up signing up for the Ubisoft Creative Program, and immediately I was met with them saying, hey, you want to end up playing Assassin's Creed Mirage? At which point I was like, heck yeah, I do. I enjoyed my time with Mirage, but overall my review score of the game was very, very low just because the game was so average. Assassin's Creed VR, however, is steadily becoming one of my favorite VR games, and this is coming from someone who's got hundreds of hours invested in VR. See, games in virtual reality usually get off on being a gimmick. The VR games that end up getting the most attention from people aren't linear level-to-level experiences like Half-Life Alyx. It's more so games where you can hop in, play a little bit, hop out, like Blade and Sorcery. But Assassin's Creed VR manages to be level-based while offering a huge variety of side missions and collectibles within each of those levels. And something about that format just works. On top of all of that, the combat is actually really cool and the parkour is done impeccably well. The only issue that I would have is because it's a VR game, it means that there are a lot of different functions that are tied to very specific movements that you yourself will perform while in virtual reality, which means that I would often get caught on the environment or fling myself in a direction while I was climbing that I didn't intend to. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a fault of the game, because I would much rather have all of these traversal options at the cost of them going wrong sometimes versus them going right the majority of time. The level-to-level mission structure is actually really interesting as well, because so many of the levels are kind of this really nice compact experience. What might be boring in a normal Assassin's Creed game like a trailing mission suddenly becomes very exciting in VR because you have to, hide from your opponent. Parrying is no longer tied to a button. You have to physically block and swing against where the enemy is attacking from. And even though the story was okay, I don't really play these games for the story anymore. For me, the main thing with Assassin's Creed is the gameplay, and Assassin's Creed VR is amazing. While I'm very on the fence of whether or not I would rate this game a 4 out of 5, I think I'm just gonna have to pull the trigger and say this is a 5 out of 5 masterclass game. Because at the end of the day, even though there are flaws in this game, it still is a VR game that is of such high quality and caliber that I can't fault it. Again, a lot of the issues that I had with the controls or what have you, a lot of that is just related to flaws that are fundamental to VR as a whole, not necessarily the game itself. The fact that your arrows or throwing daggers were basically homing in on enemies made it funner as a video game rather than being more realistic as a VR game. Unfortunately, this game is an Oculus Quest exclusive, but that does mean that if you're not recording this game, it's actually the best way that you could play it. I love the Oculus headset just because of the fact that it is completely wireless and portable, but it does make it very difficult for me as a YouTuber to create content on it because I basically have to use the headset's recording and constantly charge the damn thing.